I'm Sly. And I thought, what more of a relevant knowledge issue than, the possibility of the end of all life. So, according to certain theories, the world's supposed to end in 8 days. 8 days. I have a video. You turn it over.
It's probably muted on Richie's screen.
Pause it.
People have a tendency to lie to television cameras. So today we asked people to describe what the earthquake, that again did not happen, felt like, and every one of these people claimed to have felt it.
We're just talking to people about today's earthquake. How did it affect you?
It was a real shaky event, but I'm used to it. I'm in California, it's a little nervous, but I made it.
Describe what happened.
Well, I woke up, and next thing I know, the whole floor was going one direction, and I was going the other direction.
Did you feel the earthquake this morning?
Yes, we did. We had to dive underneath the table.
How did today's earthquake make you feel?
Oh, I feel so scared. It's cool. And when I feel it, oh my god, my heart, boom, boom, boom. Really hot.
How did I feel? A little bit on edgy, at ease, because it came out of nowhere.
I don't know, I felt like, it kind of felt like I was on a boat. Watch the road ripple.
So describe what happened today to you. So people...
Alright, so I was watching this video and I just thought it was really funny, and it just kind of got me thinking, and it kind of led me to my knowledge issue, because this is an example of, well, hysteria, or what was thought to be hysteria. Alright, so my question, I'm not going to bring it to discussion right now, but to what extent does widespread concern affect the emotions and perceptions of people? I want to come back to it a little bit. Alright, so let's just look at history, other examples of widespread hysteria. So mad or mutually assured destruction, during the Cold War, when there was the whole threat of possibly nuclear war with Russia and all that, and it was widespread hysteria. The Red Scare. We hear about it in world history all the time, and that's an example of widespread hysteria. And also Y2K, which was the theory that at the turn of the millennium, 2000, that basically all electronics would kind of reset. So think about code. Think about the year 1999, and then it doesn't have a number goes to 00. So everything just resets, and the theory was that banks would crash, stock markets would crash, things like that. So, and people were just freaking out. All right. So look at some other cultural perspectives on end of the world theories. Okay, so Joseph Smith, which is the founder of the Mormon Church, he basically said that Jesus would return in 56 years. This was in 1891, and obviously that didn't happen. But so people still believe in that they still believe in the church. And also here in the ministries, God's Church Ministry, Ronald Wayland said that millions of people would die by the end of 2006, and then eventually, in 2 years, America would just disintegrate. And this is the big one. 2012 phenomenon. Basically, according to the Mayan calendar, on the 21st of December 2012, there's going to be a big cataclysmic event. We're all going to die. So, and you see shows like Doomsday Preppers, those people that have, packing guns, packing millions and millions of cans of food. This is an example widespread hysteria. So my question is what are some factors of widespread hysteria. That's the little sub question. Yeah, I found out that it was fear. Most underlying emotion, the big emotion in hysteria is fear. And I define fear as distressing emotion aroused by impending danger, evil, pain, etc., whether the threat is real or imagined. So we don't know that that's gonna happen. And don't be scared. So how does this happen? Basically, especially in America, we have it's a tendency. The media has a tendency to sensationalize things, to make them seem worse than they are, to make them seem And you notice in the video, it starts to become kind of a weird trend. All those people, there was no earthquake, and they knew there was no earthquake, but they felt like they were missing out on something. Oh, everybody else, heard about this earthquake, and I didn't hear about it. Oh, I gotta conform. Basically conforming. Learn about that in psychology. The idea of conforming to the majority group. And sometimes, fear causes us to overreact. And an example of that is back in 2009 when there was mad cow disease, people were freaking out oh my God, if I eat a burger, I'm gonna get mad cow disease. Okay. And so, to what extent can fear overpower perceptions? And I'm going to open this up to discussion.
I think a great example of this is my brother. He's deathly afraid of spiders. And I asked him why are you afraid of spiders? He's because they're poisonous. Every spider is not poisonous, but due to his fear of being poisoned by a spider, he's scared of every single spider, no matter what it is.
I think this brings kind of an interesting topic of emotion versus either sense perception or emotion versus reason, depending on how you're looking at it. How, with the spider thing, how not all spiders are poisonous, but for some of us who have arachnophobia, they're the most horrifying things on the planet. There's nothing to compare to the fear they elicit in your body. So it's that emotion overriding any sort of logical explanation that overpowers perception of what to be true.
Yeah, and I would totally agree with that. I definitely feel emotions, they carry so much weight, especially when you're talking about things like all life ending. That's a pretty big deal. That can be an overwhelming subject. So that would definitely overpower your perceptions of what's happening. Sarah,
yeah, I was just going to say, I feel like fear can increase our perception, and almost then we lack control over those perceptions. So if I'm afraid of a spider, I'm going to be more prone to see a spider crawling on the other side of
I'll take one.
This kind of reminds me, I've been terrified of clowns. And basically the only reason is because I was doing the one that killed me and my sister. But yeah, that doesn't matter. It's clowns are supposed to be really happy, joy-inspiring things, and I'm absolutely terrified of them. So if I see one, I get really freaked out. I have to go in the opposite direction. And that's actually because a few of the studies we looked at as literature review for our psych IA for my group showed a couple of different ways that the negative tends to outweigh the positive when we are forming impressions of things and people. So if you're given a list of words, you get industrious and you get dedicated and you get friendly and things, but then the difference is whether the person is described as warm or cold. So you get a description of all these good characteristics, and the person is described as cold, and your impression is automatically more negative because the negative tends to outweigh the positive. So, yeah.
And so that just really brings me back to my original question, to what extent does widespread concern affect emotions and perception?